Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming Sister Mary from the 1987 sequel classic Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, Nadya Wynd. Nadya Wynd is coming on the show today to talk about how she got to be the only survivor in that cult classic. And I want to ask her about the films that she's made as well. She also directs. There's not much written about her or much about her trajectory in life, and I'm going to have her on to talk about all that stuff today and talk about Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. And I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. So, here is my interview with Nadya Wynd. Hi, Nadya.
It's actually pronounced Nadia.
Oh, Nadia. I was always debating that.
That's okay.
I'm sure you've been used to that your whole life.
Yep. I get all different pronunciations, but it's Nadia.
Nadia. Okay. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
Oh, I am spectacular. This is really awesome. Thank you for taking the time today.
Sure.
Just so you know, swearing is allowed on the podcast and nothing offends me.
Okay. I'm not much of a swearer, so I don't think you'll hear much.
Okay. Well, that's like one of the most popular questions I get is, can I swear? You know?
Yeah. No, I kind of lost that when I had kids and never adopted it again.
Yeah, I've heard that from quite a few people.
Yeah. It's hard enough to break yourself of it, so why pick it up again?
Hard habit to break, like Chicago said. So, going back in time, long before Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, were you on the trajectory of being an actress?
No, actually, I had a career before I decided to go into the entertainment business. I was a social worker, counselor, teacher for 10 years, and I had my degree in sociology, social work, and I just got burned out on it and didn't find working for the state or the government or even private agencies very pleasant or fulfilling, and mostly frustrating with, all the red tape and bureaucracy that you encounter and
right.
Your inability to actually do your job that you had a passion to do, which is to help people and make the world a better place, and you just feel like you're just going nowhere. And so I decided I wanted to find a career where I could still contribute in a positive way to helping to bring about change in the world, but it needed to be something where I could be more independent and I could be more creative. And I thought long and hard about it, and I decided at that particular time, which was back in the early 80s, 1982 really was when I made this decision. Mm-hmm. I decided that the media was probably the second most influential aspect on society and on individuals as far as their attitudes, their beliefs, their behavior, next to family and their peer group and, their social circle. The media had a lot of influence on people. So I thought, okay, maybe I could create stories in some form or fashion that had messages to help achieve the same thing that I thought, the only thing that came to me when I was a child was, to be a social worker, to be a counselor, to change people's minds. But I thought, this way I can be independent, I can be creative. So I wasn't sure how to go about that. Mm-hmm. I had no background, no friends, family in the business whatsoever, knew nothing about it. But I decided, okay, I'll start taking some acting classes and just see, you know, from the bottom up what this is about. And because I had developed so much empathy in my first career, it was like a natural for me. I remember in my very first acting class, was assigned a scene on the first day, just kind of an improv thing, and I cried in this sad, you know, kind of scene, and my acting teacher was just blown away, you know. So I realized, okay, this is something I can do. I always knew that I wanted to take it to another level at some point and become a producer and actually, you know, shepherd stories, movies, television, whatever. But, you know, I had to find a way in, because you just don't start being a producer and producing films. It just doesn't happen, especially back in those days. So I thought, okay, well, if I can succeed as an actress, then I can, you know, stair-step my way into what I really want to do. And so I studied acting, and this was in Austin, Texas, for several years, and then I also went back to school in graduate school at the University of Texas and studied film production at the same time. But I was working on both ends, you know, of the spectrum and learning everything about the business that I could. And then, you know, a few years later, I decided, okay, it was time to go out to LA, because in those days you had to go to LA if you wanted to actually be successful. It wasn't even possible to have a career in Texas. So I did that, and the world that I encountered in LA in 1986 was when I went out, and I spent 5 years there. Was, for an actress, was really awful, I have to say. It was the whole Me Too thing that's now finally come into the mainstream awareness. Because for someone with no connections, no credits, well, you know, almost no credits. I had been an extra in a film in Texas. You know, I'd done some little tiny things, but nothing of any significance. No agent, you know, no manager, all of that. Yeah. You just started out going to cattle calls in LA, and you got the drama log, and you searched through it every week and submitted your headshot. You took acting classes. You went to parties hoping to meet people. And what you encountered as that level of an actress trying to break into the business was a lot of predators at that, you know, kind of what we call, you know, scavenger B-movie level. Yeah. And so that's, you know, it was very demoralizing and very unpleasant. And so I spent about 3 years at that in LA, and I decided I can't do this anymore. And I went on later to make a film about that whole thing called The Beautiful Illusion. I was a little before my time. It was, you know, 1999, and I wrote, produced, and directed a 33-minute film called The Beautiful Illusion about the sexual exploitation of an actress. But anyway, I moved into writing. I started working in a workshop, a screenwriting workshop, which I had studied screenwriting in college and graduate school, so I had, you know, already a background in it. And from there, I just made the transition into writing and eventually producing and directing. But that was my experience as an actress. I can't say it was very pleasant, but it really helped form me as a writer, as a director, as a producer, because I really know intimately from, you know, the inside out how the film works and what actors need and how actors work, and the whole dramatic aspect of the film through the characters, all of that was a tremendous education, I'd have to say.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah, it sounds like the biography of most 80s actresses I've interviewed.
Yeah, sure. It's such a common story, and, people weren't even talking about it hardly, except amongst ourselves,
Yeah.
But it was a secret right out in the open and accepted, it's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Oh my God. So, how did Silent Night, Deadly Night come into your life? The second one.
Again, it was just a drama-log. Do they still have drama-log? You're in California, right? Are you in LA?
I'm in Redding. I go out to LA a lot.
Do they still have the drama-log? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I don't know if they still have them. I mean, I know they have, Facebook casting call pages and stuff.
Yeah. Well, if they do, of course, it would be online. In those days, it was printed. It was a little, magazine that you bought every week, and you went through it, and there were casting calls in it. And so you just answered the ones that you were appropriate for by mailing a headshot to the address that was listed. Sometimes they would have a phone number and want you to call, but most of the time you were just submitting a headshot with a resume on the back of it, stapled to the back of it, and that's how it came. I submitted myself for this role of a nun. I thought, why not? Mostly I get calls for prostitutes. So it would be actually a refreshing change to play a nun.
Had you seen the first one?
I have not. I have to admit, I'm not a horror film lover.
Yeah.
I just find them a little too too much for my sensibility. Although have to say, since I have a project right now, a feature film project that I have partial financing on, that I'm doing my best to get produced. It's a supernatural murder mystery, and I guess that's as close to a horror film as I'll ever get.
Yeah, the first one was very controversial because it was the first. There had been Killer Santa movies before, but this was the first one released by a major studio, and that just did not sit well with parents,
Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember hearing and, reading a little bit about the controversy about that. Yeah, but I hadn't seen the first one, and I didn't really know about that before I went to the audition.
Yeah.
But I went, and, usually I was, got calls, like I said, for prostitutes or waitresses or some sexy, kind of role, because that's what they cast unknown actresses in mostly. And so this one I went, and I wore very, very conservative, very frumpy-looking clothes, no makeup, the opposite of how I would dress for most auditions, and it worked, that and my reading that I did, they cast me, and then I remember it was funny because one day when I came to work on the film, I had an audition right before the film, and it was for the Playboy channel, and it wasn't for porn because, I wasn't willing to do that, but they had some roles that were like little featured, minor roles that didn't require you to take your clothes off, and so that one actually, I think, that point I had an agent sent me on, and so for that one I dressed sexy because even though you weren't playing a Playboy model or whatever, they wanted women, of course, to look beautiful and sexy. So I showed up on the set this really sexy outfit with a lot of makeup, and I remember the producer looking at me and going, "Oh my God, who are you?" And he looked at my skin tight pants and whatever, and he says, I get it. You're a dancer, because I also did some dancing back in those days, and I kind of had a dancer's body. And, so it was kind of a funny moment that the nun showed up, looking like a sexy dancer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't like the second one because there's all these constant flashback sequences in the first half of the movie.
Right, I've read a little bit of that in the reviews.
Yeah, it takes like 45 minutes for the movie to kick in, and when it does, it's over like pretty shortly.
Yeah, I think that was all about the budget. It was their way to make another film without having to shoot so much film, because shooting film in those days was really expensive, even low budget stuff. So, they figured out a way to cannibalize the first film and save a lot of money.
Yeah, I just talked to the producer of the first one before you, and he told me that the investor of the movie, he was very charming when they met up with him, and then he put the kibosh on them going to the set and attending the premiere and being involved with any sequels, which I thought was very strange.
For the producer, or for
it was.
They did that on the producer that you just interviewed?
Yeah, the producer. He had the kibosh put on him by the investor of the movie.
Wow.
Which is strange and stuff.
Do you know why that happened?
He's guessing the guy was a bully, and he knew that they were young and they didn't know much about the industry and stuff. And yeah, he was pretty bitter about it, I have to say. But he's very proud of the movie because 98% of what him and the other guy wrote ended up in the final product.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
He's pretty good. Yeah, I think Eric Friedman was a better killer than Robert Wilson was in the first one, because Eric Friedman was darker and better looking, and I felt his lack of empathy in the killing scenes made him more menacing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still haven't seen the first one, so I can't compare myself, but I've seen the one I'm in.
Yeah, but it's just the killings are so over the top, whether it's jamming the jumper cable in the guy's mouth and turning the car on,
Oh, yeah.
or stabbing the guy with the umbrella and opening it, which is my favorite one.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the few slasher movies in which the killer uses a gun.
Wow.
I can't think of another horror movie that has that.
Okay.
Yeah, but how was filming your big scene at the end?
It was fine. It was all professional, and the people were nice, and it went very smoothly. They liked my scream.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun having oh God, what do you call the head nun? I forgot now.
Oh, Mother Superior.
Mother Superior's head coming off. Yeah, that was kind of fun because I hadn't really done any of that kind of action stuff. So, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's a pretty intense scream you have there.
Yeah.
How was Lee Harry as a director?
He was fine. He was a nice guy. No problems,
Yeah, I know a guy who interviewed him a couple of years ago and said he was a great guy. I reached out to him, but I never heard back. Maybe next year. Eric Friedman, I don't think he does long-form interviews. He hasn't gotten back to me or the other guy and stuff. I do know he does, Q&A panels at conventions and stuff, but I don't think he's a fan of the long-form format.
Okay. Did he go on to have a career?
I think he did.
I didn't keep up with him, and I don't remember seeing him and stuff, but you never know.
Yeah. Let me look here. Let's see. He did some episodes of In Living Color. Huh, that's interesting. I didn't even know he was a comedic kind of guy. He was a villain on the Superboy TV series.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he did a couple things
Okay.
like that.
Oh.
So after the movie, did you try to get roles in other movies, and you just the Hollywood thing was just too much?
Yeah. I mean, I was already getting pretty jaded by the time I, got cast in that film, and I thought, well, maybe this will bump me up to a level, because I didn't realize that this whole sexual predator thing was rampant through the whole business. I just thought it was on the underbelly where I was having to deal with people. I mean, I literally, just to give you an example, I auditioned for the lead in what we used to call B movies. I guess low budget movies is what you would call it now. And the director, cast me. And he said, now, I need you to understand that I have an arrangement with my lead actresses. And I've had this arrangement with every film I've produced, and he'd produced quite a number of these B movies. And he said, while we're shooting the film, you will be my girlfriend. And I said, no, I guess I won't. Because I just was not going to do that. I mean, a lot of actresses did because they had to if they wanted to succeed, because there just wasn't a way in. It was so incredibly competitive in the 80s. It's like somehow in at least the early 80s when I was there, every actress from every small town all over America just took the bus or the plane and came to LA. And, these casting cattle calls would be like thousands of actresses. It was just incredible, and all the same age and, similar look. And, it was just unbelievable. So, I mean, I understand why they did it, and I don't blame them for it, but it was just not something I wasn't willing to make that sacrifice. It wasn't. I figured I'd find another way in, because I had the ultimate goal of producing anyway, so it wasn't like acting was an end-all be-all for me. But for people who felt like that was their calling and their passion, and that they had to be an actress, that was the door that was open.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize too, especially in those days, and it probably still carries on now, is that, people think that they're going to get cast in things, because of their talent or their looks, They just go to the audition, they're going to get it and stuff. They don't realize too, you have to go out and network and go to Hollywood parties and stuff. I mean, you don't necessarily have to sleep with the person, but like just network with them, And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah. Well, I also have to say, though, back in those days at least, networking often meant, if you were going to go to a deeper level with someone, they wanted to sleep with you, because it was almost always men agents, men managers, men producers, men directors, men screenwriters, and there's always that joke about she slept with the screenwriter. She was new to Hollywood, because, screenwriters were the lowest on the totem pole. But, every role practically in the film-making business in those days was men. And, I mean, the statistics are still really surprising about how male-dominated it is, but it's finally changing.
Yeah, it's changing for the better. I think having women in charge in Hollywood is going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's going to change things a lot. I mean, it's already started, but we're just in the phase one. Be interesting to see what happens in another 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, and I think having women, in charge of studios, they're going to be less dictatorial, or however you say that word, But I think it's pretty awesome. You made a movie called The Beautiful Illusion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I haven't seen this, but I like the story. I can relate to it after reading the premise on IMDb and stuff. What was the genesis behind that?
Well, that's the one I was just telling you about that was all about the sexual exploitation of an actress.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a psychological drama, and the actress starts out as an acting student in an acting class with a kind of Machiavelli acting teacher. Mm-hmm. This acting teacher was actually a composite character that I created of an acting teacher I had and a director in a repertory theater company that I was in Hollywood. And I mean, they're just typical people that you would encounter on every level in LA. So it's a very recognizable kind of character. And so, you know, she's this very innocent and unsophisticated and insecure young acting student who's very, very committed to having a career as an actress. And he ends up, you know, I'm not going to give away the whole movie. I recommend you see it if you want to watch it. It's on a website called Cinemerse, and you can watch it for free on there.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, what I can relate to is, you know, how to go from being a small-time, you know, actress to being a big one, you know, and overcoming and persevering and stuff. Yep. I had a car accident in 2015. Next month will be 5 years since it happened, and since then, you know, I've started this podcast, and I've just interviewed so many amazing people. I'm at almost 650 interviews.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, that is, you know, I wanted it to be a story of hope and healing and transformation. I didn't want it to be just a depressing story of, you know, this sexual exploitation that goes on. So in it, you know, she eventually gets therapy and ends up being a successful Broadway actress, and then the story's kind of told in flashbacks, because in the beginning it starts out in her dressing room as she's getting ready to go out on stage on Broadway, and the stage manager puts the variety in her dressing room, and in it there's an obituary of her this acting teacher that she had this experience with. So then, you know, it's told in flashbacks her experience with him up to the present moment, but you get to see how she, you know, survived all that and went on to be successful and happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like a great story. I'll definitely check it out. And you have this film that you're either making or trying to make about the secret of the crystal skulls.
Yeah, I still have that website up. That's kind of a sad story in a way too, because I started developing that story before Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skulls was created.
Yeah.
And I based it on, I live in Hawaii, and I based it on my experience and my research and background with Hawaiian history. But at the same time, I actually had a real experience with the crystal skull in Glastonbury. And so I included that aspect in the story because it had never been done before, and it made a great MacGuffin, right? And so I, you know, was doing my best to get it out there and find a producer, a director, whatever, and I met a woman here in Hawaii whose brother was a friend of J.J. Abrams. And I sent him the script through this, you know, contact who read the script and thought it was really good and sent it on to J.J. Abrams. Well, at that particular time, he was at Warner Brothers also with Spielberg. Mm-hmm. And I guess he must have known that Spielberg was, developing that movie at the time, which there wasn't common knowledge of it. It wasn't out in the media or anything. And when I mailed that script came back to me faster than I would think would be possible between LA and Hawaii, and came back from an attorney's office saying, that they don't accept unsolicited, even though, the friend had set this up, because I think they were afraid that if, I found out that Steven Spielberg was developing this movie, that I might sue and say, you stole my idea or something, which, I don't believe they did. But people, did that. And, similar ideas come up all over the world, from people that haven't had any contact with each other. So it's not like I thought they stole my idea. But of course I was very disappointed that I wasn't able to be the first to get the idea made into a movie. But once the movie was made, unfortunately, it really prevented me from going any further, especially because it was not received well by critics. I mean, they made fun of that movie. They said it destroyed the Indiana Jones franchise. There was even a joke about, nuking the refrigerator.
Yeah, I love that.
Heard that term?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, if you ever want to destroy your franchise, nuke the refrigerator, from that scene that's in that movie. So, yeah, I'm sort of waiting for enough time to go by, hopefully, that people don't even remember the movie. Because mine is very different, completely different. It has nothing to do with, that concept, except the crystal skull aspect.
Yeah, there's been this weird resurgence in the last decade of the Crystal Skulls. Dan Aykroyd came out with Crystal Skull vodka,
right,
which I recommend.
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink in 5 years since my accident, but I did drink that vodka when I was drinking. It was pretty good. But even he had a meeting with Spielberg saying, I hope you don't think that I'm ripping off your idea by making vodka out of it. And he's like, no, if I had known that, I would have put it in the movie.
Yeah. It's a cult phenomenon, the Crystal Skulls. I mean, I get lots of emails, and a lot of people don't realize, seeing that trailer that I have on the website, that the movie isn't made. They think that there is a real movie already produced, and they're all wanting to see it, and how can we get a copy, and that kind of thing.
So that's an ill-fated project. You're not going to see if you can do it.
I'm not pursuing it at this time because there's that whole nuke the refrigerator around it. So I just haven't taken down the website, but I'm still hoping at some point in the future. I mean, enough generations go by that they're like, Spielberg who?
I don't think that will ever happen.
I guess not, but at least maybe they'll forget about the Crystal Skull movie, because, nobody wants to touch it at this point, because there's too much memory of that movie.
Yeah, he had concern when he did The Last Crusade. He had concern that they were going to associate the Holy Grail with the Monty Python movie, with his movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right. So they had to assure him, no, we're not going to even reference that, which is hilarious. But do you have any upcoming projects?
Yeah, I have 2 projects I'm working on currently. One is a feature film. That's the supernatural murder mystery I mentioned. It's called Ghosts of the Sinclair Plantation. And it's a story about a Native Hawaiian sheriff investigating a murder on a sugar plantation built on sacred land on Kauai, where I live. And he encounters motive-filled residents and the victim's ghost. But eventually he catches the killer with help from the spirit of his kahuna grandfather. So there's a lot of Hawaii history, Native Hawaiian shamanism, spirituality, culture, all of that is in it. It takes place in 1888 on Kauai. And I have partial financing on it, and I'm just doing whatever I can to put together the right elements to get it made, but it's always a challenge, especially today. The film business is kind of mostly really big budget movies like Avengers, comic book movies, animated movies, or real super low budget micro budget movies. And since this is a period piece and shot in Hawaii, it's not. It's still what I would consider a low budget film, but it's not a micro budget film.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that one, and then I'm also working on a documentary about the disappearance of nomadic culture in the Sahara Desert due to climate change, environmental destruction, and the forces of globalization. And that story is being told through the lens, or through the frame, I should say, of a festival that happens in the Sahara every year, a music festival that celebrates this culture, nomadic culture in the desert. And so that one, is much more doable. It's very timely with climate change and environmental destruction, and just the fact that indigenous cultures all over the world are being so impacted by both of those, and they're all, going extinct practically, because of all of that. There's been a resurgence with indigenous culture, but the ones that are in areas that are being so affected by climate change and environmental destruction are having to leave. They're like climate refugees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure you could get like a distribution deal with Netflix or Amazon to do those films.
Yeah, I'd like to get more of a wider distribution if I could, like Nat Geo or the Discovery Channel, some European television networks. That's going to be kind of my first, once I get the film completed and get it, through post-production, then that's going to be where I'm going to go first. But, Netflix and Amazon will be a good second choice.
You don't consider the streaming sites to be a wide audience?
Probably not for this type of film, being a documentary. I mean, they are a wide audience, but for documentaries of this type, I feel like being able to get a distribution on cable, TV and in Europe and in the U.S. would reach more people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I noticed, on RottenTomatoes.com, a lot of Netflix movies, get, high ratings. I don't know if it's because of the people who are involved in the movies, being stars or what have you. But like when I watch Netflix and Amazon movies, I feel like I'm watching a cheaply produced HBO or Showtime movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't really watched those much. I still get DVDs from Netflix because the ones I want to watch, they never have on streaming. So I just said the heck with it. I'll just have them mail me a DVD. I'll be back in the Middle Ages because that's the ones I want to watch.
Yeah, I got the DVDs when I first started getting Netflix. Now I just stream with them and stuff. I wonder if their movies are available on DVD to rent, though. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe that's the difference is I don't think I've ever watched an actual Netflix-made movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're like watching HBO or Showtime movies, cheaply produced, but in some cases well done. Like, I recommend that the Eddie Murphy biopic about Rudy Ray Moore he just did, Dolomite Is My Name. That was really good.
Okay. All right, I'll check it out.
And Scorsese, he just did The Irishman for Netflix, and it got released in some theaters, but not a whole lot. It was like probably the most expensive movie Netflix has made, and it didn't make much in the theaters, but it's doing well on the Netflix streaming.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, well, yeah, I didn't realize they had done that one. That was major stars, and I'm sure a very expensive film.
Yeah. Well, guys like him and like Adam Sandler and several others, they're starting to see the business change and how hard it is to get their movies, wide released in theaters. So they're all turning to Netflix or Amazon now.
Yeah, the film business is really in a sad state right now. But, I really believe it's, going to be cyclical, that it's going to come back around. People are going to be nostalgic for a theater experience, or young people who really have never had that experience hardly are going to yearn for it at some point in the future, and they're going to start, it may be on a much smaller scale than it ever was before, and it may be these theaters that serve food and, alcohol and all kinds of stuff like they have in Austin now. They have these theaters where you can order Mexican food and beer. And, while you're eating, while you're watching the movie.
Oh, yeah, we just got one of those theaters in the Bay Area.
Did you really? Have you been?
I haven't been yet, but I've heard about it, and I've heard it's pretty cool because they got people bringing food to the seats and stuff, just like the Alamo Drafthouse does.
Yes, exactly. So, I don't know, it may be like that. They may have to somehow change the whole concept of a theater from how it was in the past, because in the old days, the way they made their money was on Coke and popcorn and candy bars and hot dogs, and I don't think that's going to bring, the new future population into the theater. But I just feel like it's going to come back around. People are going to yearn for something besides sitting in their living room watching a movie on their TV or on their computer screen or on their phone, with just a few people. They're because it's a communal experience, the theater experience. It's completely different.
Yeah.
And I think people are gonna yearn for it, and I think it's gonna come back around. So I hope that happens sooner rather than later.
I hope so. And I like the way when you said Coke, I thought you were talking about cocaine.
No, I'm talking about the old days when you went to the theater and bought a Coke and a bag of popcorn and maybe a hot dog and a candy bar, and they were real expensive, and
they still are.
That was paying for the movie more than your admission price.
Yeah, well, the admission price, goes to the movies, and then the food goes to the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's still expensive. That's why I always sneak in my own snacks from the dollar store.
Yeah, but I haven't been to one of these theaters that we were just talking about that serve meals, but I've heard about them, especially friends that I still have in Austin talking about it, and they're very popular, and they get young people in, because it's a whole experience. It's a date night. It's dinner and a movie, and you don't have to go two places. You just sit in a chair, and they bring it to you, and you watch your movie. So it may require something like that, but that's fine.
Yeah, I love theaters and going to them still, and I always will, because that's what I was exposed to from early on.
Yep, me too.
Hey, Nadya, how do you pronounce your last name?
Wynd.
Wynd. Okay, I didn't know if it was Wind or Wind. I just want to make sure that I get your name right during my outro than I did in the intro.
Sure.
Well, Nadia, thank you so much for coming on today. And you ever have any projects that you want to promote, you're always welcome back on.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice of you.
My pleasure. You have yourself a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and a great day.
You too. Thank you, Tommy. Aloha.
Aloha. My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Nadya Wynd. What a sweetheart, huh? She is just a great lady, and again, perseverance. That's all it is. Perseverance. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes!